Ladies and
That's
gentlemen,
a good one.
Stan Lee has entered the building.
Woo. The biggest thing one of the biggest things I've had to learn in making comics really is that as an artist, you're never 100% happy with the work you do, and you can get caught up in that never finish something trying to make it perfect. I find that it's more important to actually finish something than it is that it's the single best piece of work you'll ever do in your life. So I think completing a project is one of the big X factors. It's one of the hard things that a lot of people, even super talented people, kind of get caught up in and forget about. So people are always, people ask advice occasionally, and I always say, look, the only thing I would say is start making comics and finish some.
Okay, so I'm just about done with my novel. I've been proofing it for about 1.5 years, and I could easily spend another 1.5 years proofing it. But at some point, you got to figure out when you're done. That's what this episode of Comic Book Storytellers is about. I talked to a bunch of writers and artists to figure out when they think a story is done, or when a picture is done, or when a cover is done. Check it out.
That's an interesting question. I don't even know how to answer that.
When is a picture done? A picture is done when I finally walk away from it.
Oh, story is never done.
When is a picture done? When you have to send it off to the publisher, that's about it. Because if we got to hang on to these books indefinitely, we'd always be noodling them and changing things and improving them.
And you could work on something forever, but you always have a deadline to meet. So when I feel that the piece is done is usually when my fingers are sore or my mouse clicking is done.
It's kind of a gut feeling as far as the aesthetic part of it. The commercial part of it, obviously, you need to get a paycheck, so it's done when a deadline hits. So
no matter how long a deadline I've got, I'll always take that time. It's not like I'm not somebody who, if I've got 2 pages to do and 2 weeks to do it in, I'll do the 2 pages in 2 days, and then sit around. I'll take 2 weeks doing the 2 pages.
So yeah, the page is done when the deadline is pending and the page is due and the inker's waiting for it and the writer's waiting for it. That's when a page is done. There's always something more you'd like to do with it, but thank God I'm not still working on my first page and redoing that over and over again because of deadlines.
I have a habit of working a little too much on pieces sometimes, and I'm trying to get better at having it to a point where it's finished and I put it away and I walk away. But I think there's an old phrase somewhere, no masterpiece is ever really finished, it's just abandoned.
One of the first couple of things I was told by the writers was get your work in on time, and that's 90% of the battle. Most editors are more grateful for something that's handed in that they can publish than a beautiful piece that's 2 weeks late.
I'll initially do a script, and I'll do my first revision of the script, submit it. The art then begins to come in, and I'll give notes to the artist when necessary. Usually my notes are simply, great page. And then it goes to inking and then to coloring. And then as we enter the lettering phase, that gives me my first chance to actually revise my script according to the inspiration that the artists have provided.
you have to internally know that it is time to stop. Now, it's easier said than done. There have been plenty of times where I thought to myself, this just still doesn't look right. If I can just add a few more lines, or if I could just tweak this a little bit, then that would be it. And I, of course, do that, and I've gone too far, and it doesn't look right.
I'm a big fan of, at some point you just got to put it down. I mean, you could work something just to death, but it's kind of an instinct you develop. And also, I'm a big fan of asking other people's opinions. I have a couple of people whose opinion I really trust, and if 3 people tell me it's done, then it's probably done.
It's not a professional trick. It's something that you need to learn very early on, is to be as objective as you can with your own work. You're always going to be your own toughest critic, hopefully. If you're not, have a long conversation with the man in the mirror. But it's always about objectively comparing yourself to the other people that are working in the industry, or more to the point, to the people you've always admired in the industry, and being as honest with yourself as you can, whether or not you're getting there, whether you're improving, whether you're approaching that goal. If you think you've arrived, if you think, well, that's as good as I need to be to do what I'm doing, That's not a good place for any creative person to be. You should always be striving for that next level.
Most artists will be very critical of their artwork. I'm critical of my artwork too. Like, I can spot the mistakes right away, and it's a matter of if I have time to change it or not. But the way I look at artwork in general, any artist should always try to improve every single time they do a piece of artwork. So you could be critical, and it sounds funny, but being critical of your artwork and dwelling upon mistakes doesn't help you progress as an artist. What helps you progress as an artist is just to aim to be better every single time. So when I was in the graphic design field, you were only as good as the last piece you did. And if you're making a living at that, you're always constantly trying to be better.
You may show it to a family member and they say, that's amazing, how can you do that? It looks fantastic. And a lot of artists, when they look at their own work at the end of the day, go the opposite direction. That's awful, I can't believe I did that, oh, it looks terrible, I should have drawn this better. So it's a tough thing to critique your own work. Part of that depends on your personality. You're a naturally confident person, it's probably a little easier to critique your own work in a positive way. You know, if you're more self-conscious, you're probably a little bit more apt to be harsher on yourself.
Very rarely do I ever do anything and sit back and go, oh, that was good. You know, normally I think, yeah, Brian Bolland would have done that better, or Kevin Nolan would have inked that better, or it's just a constant sort of journey trying to improve all the time, and I just never believe you should ever look at your work and think that's good, I don't need to improve. You know, you should always, whatever you do, think that could be better. You know, I'm very lucky that, you know, I've got friends like Adi Granov, and you know, no matter how pleased or smug I might be for 5 minutes, I just need to look at one thing he's done, and I realise, you know, there's a long, long way to go.
So it does help to have some outside eyes of people that you respect, artists that you respect, take a look at it, say, I'm not sure about, you know, what do you think, that kind of stuff, and then you internalize that, process it, and then it still has to be your own choice about what you do with that information. You can only go so far, I think, just looking at it yourself, you know, experienced eyes, people you respect, I think that helps as well.
It's kind of cool to hear that most of what these guys said kind of mirrors what one of my early film professors said. And he told me a film is never done, it's just slowly abandoned. And for those of us kind of doing our own thing or working in a self-publishing route, we don't have any publishers breathing down our necks. We don't have any editors waiting with a timeline. So we got to figure out when to finally finish it up. Because as Jeff mentioned, one of the most important things is just to finish it and move on to the next one and hope that every story you write or every picture you draw is just going to keep getting better and better. The one thing I've learned being a video producer is just to have a big scope of the project. If you're obsessing about the third panel on page 6 and it's just dialogue and it's covered in word bubbles, you probably don't need to spend that much time on it. Spend more time on the cover, or spend more time on a huge chapter in your novel that has a huge twist to the plot or a character development point. And if you're just working on a spot that kind of keeps it along, just keep moving. For me, and when I think it's kind of finally done, is when I kind of get all the things that are kind of negative out of the story. Anything that's going to make me look bad, grammar, spelling, things like that. So as long as you kind of keep a big picture as a whole, just get it done. Like Jeff mentioned. Thanks for watching Comic Book Storytellers. There's 3 different ways to find us on Facebook. Please check us out. We'd love to hear what you think. And also, if you're a fan of comics and want to check out some neat independent comics from young creators and writers from basically all over the globe, please check out Cloud9 Comics. They got a lot of digital books, huge catalog, and there's a lot of free downloads. Thanks.